if you are a North Korean citizen and if you are determined to leave your country, it has almost become a business. If you pay money, so there is a sort of a fixer there who, if you pay them, they will let you know how to get out of the country. They will escort you to the border, and they know how to kind of escape.
Welcome to StratNews Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. Our focus is on North Korea and its leader Kim Jong-un. Both are enigmas. Little is known about them, although there's a lot that is speculated upon, especially in terms of these days, in recent days, when there's a lot of activity concerning the North Koreans. Kim, for instance, has sent a delegation to Iran the first time in 5 years. And there are rumors, there's speculation in many parts of the Western media that he may be working for a three-way tie-up with Russia and Iran on the supply of weapons and ammunition. As you're aware, the North Koreans have been supplying arms and ammunition to the Russians to fight the war in Ukraine. I have with me Dr. Narushige Michishita of the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies in Japan. He's a North Korea expert, and we go directly to him to get a sense of just what North Koreans are up to. Doctor, great to have you with us.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Dr. Michishita, um, you've traveled to North Korea, you study it closely. What is your sense of North Korea in the current situation where it seems to have emerged as a major player, given the equation with Russia, now with Iran? Of course, there's with China, it's involved in the Ukraine war also.
So there are good news and bad news for North Korea. Good news, North Korea. Well, there is a emerging great power competition between the U.S. and China, and the U.S., Europe, and Russia. And as a result, North Korea has become a closer friend and ally of Russia and China. So Russia, for example, has been providing help, support to North Korea in return for ammunition, artillery shells, and missiles that North Korea has been providing to Russia. And North Korea's relationship with China has becoming more closer than before. There are bad news. North Korea seems to be becoming a little more concerned about negative consequences of infiltration of South Korean culture, such as K-pop music, K-dramas, K-movies into North Korea, because recently North Korea enacted 3 new laws, basically trying to prevent South Korean cultural products, K-pop music and others, into North Korea. So it seems that the North Korean leaders are becoming concerned about, the negative influence that South Korean culture might have been having on North Korean people. So, they are concerned that North Korean people might become attracted by South Korean things and as a result, lose loyalty to the North Korean regime.
But have you discerned any restlessness among the population? Are there any uprisings happening? Are there protests of any kind? We don't seem to hear any of these things.
Not really. So still, South Korea's influence in North Korea is very limited. North Korean people might be secretly watching, South Korean movies and dramas and listening to K-pop music, but that doesn't mean to say that they would stand up and say no to the North Korean regime because they are worried about.
So the regime is stable.
The regime seems to be stable, yeah, but I think there is potential for, potential instability, which the North Korean leaders are seeing, and as a result, they are responding to that.
Where would you say if there is any movement against Kim Jong Un? Where do you think this would come from? Is it the military? Is it something else? Civil society?
At this point, it's very hard for North Korean people to resist or, kind of stand up against a regime because if they do, they get punished severely. North Korean regime
Hmm.
easily take you out, off on the somewhere and execute you, and that's such a brutal regime that you have in North Korea. And another thing is, if you are not one North Korean citizen and don't like the regime really, then you have a choice of leaving the country and immigrating to South Korea, right? Well, that involves some risk, but you can do it. So it's in a strange way this possibility of being able to defect from North Korea and go to South Korea. North Koreans and South Korean, both of them are Koreans. They speak the same language. Certainly, life is different, but you can somehow get by. Once you are in South Korea, so fact, that option seems to be deflating the tension in North Korea in a strange way.
Are you telling me that the North Korean regime allows people to leave to South Korea if they are too troublesome?
No, they are not allowing. But if you are a North Korean citizen and if you are determined to leave your country, it has almost become a business. If you pay money, so there is a sort of a fixer there who, if you pay them, they will let you know how to get out of the country. They will escort you to the border, and they know how to kind of escape the eyes of patrol, guards, border guards, and you can cross there is a river, but it's not too wide. And so you can cross the river into China. Then you take cover there for a while and find a way to South Korea. So that's not possible, impossible.
Mhm. Does North Korea have a special dislike for Japan because they keep firing missiles towards your country?
Well, it's a mixed feeling that they have toward Japan. The sworn enemy of North Korea is actually South Korea. And if you ask North Koreans, they might say, "Well, Americans is the most serious enemy and threat." But that's not true because South Korea is the only country which has ability and potential willingness to absorb North Korea and unify the Korean Peninsula. So
Mhm.
only South Korea poses an existential threat to North Korea. The United States or Japan, I mean, they are not interested in taking North Korea. Who would like to have North Korea, right? So, but
Yeah.
because North Korean leaders cannot say, well, we are worried about South Korea because that might, they might regard it as being weak or inferior to South Korea. So they always, brag about how while South Korea doesn't have nuclear weapons, they have nuclear weapons. While South Korea doesn't have long-range missiles, North Korea has them. So that's a sort of a game that the two Koreas or North Koreans are playing.
Mhm. But economically, would you say North Korea needs the South?
Not really, because now the most of the international trade that North Korea has is takes place with China. And I would say I don't remember the figure, but more than 80%, and I think 90% or so, trade comes with North Korea of North Korea comes from and to goes to um, China. So China is the most important economic partner, and yes, in the past there was a period when inter-Korean economic interactions were quite active, but then North Koreans realized that can be dangerous politically because North Korean people were learning how much more affluent and advanced South Korea was to North Korea. So it cut both ways. So North Korea could get economic gains, but suffered political or found some political problems in doing so or interacting with South Korea.
Mhm. Do you think the Ukraine war, in that sense, has given North Korea more room for maneuver, diplomatic
Yes,
maneuver?
definitely. So, in a way, North Korea got lucky because Russia is in trouble. Russia, certainly can produce a large number of artillery shells and missiles and all that, much larger quantity than its Western counterpart. But still, Russians are firing so many artillery shells and missiles at Ukraine right now, and trying to
Yeah.
overwhelm Ukraine by kind of quantity rather than quality. So Russia needs outside supply of weapons, and North Korea is a perfect place to look, find those supplies. And North Korea has been sending basically artillery shells and missiles to Russia, and in return, North Korea seems to be getting energy and food and other, military assistance, possibly including satellite technologies or missile technologies.
So this is basically about Kim Jong Un wanting to safeguard his regime, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's nothing surprising about it that North Korean regime, North Korean leaders have been doing just that in the
Yeah.
past, all the time. That's their most important goal. So we are not surprised, but in a way, North Korea has been in a fairly difficult position before the Ukraine war because there are economic sanctions imposed, and COVID-19 hit North Korea quite severely. The
Yeah.
country had to shut its borders down and keeping any foreigners away from the country. So it was totally isolated and in a big trouble. And there are some debate over whether economic sanctions are effective or not. But I think they are not really effective, but they are certainly quite effective because when Mr. Trump and Mr. Kim Jong-un met in Hanoi, Vietnam, back in
Mhm.
2019, North Koreans suggested that if the United States or the international community decided to lift some of those important economic sanctions, then North Korea would be willing to dismantle nuclear facilities in the place called Myeongbyon in
Yeah.
northwestern part of North Korea. That was significant, suggestion by North Korea. So unless those economic sanctions were quite effective, North Korea wouldn't have suggested that, right? So
Yeah.
I think that I regard that as a circumstantial evidence that those sanctions are very, at least, effective.
Mhm. And these nuclear inventory that they have, is it credible? Is it something which poses a real danger? I mean,
Well, I don't think North Korea can use nuclear weapons and get away with it.
yeah.
So North Korea actually has, there are different estimates, but supposedly North Korea has about 50 nuclear weapons. And together with more than like 300, 400 short-range ballistic missiles targeted at South Korea, and more than 300 ballistic missiles targeted at Japan. So that's arsenal that North Korea has. But if you compare, just 50, 50 seems to be scary. But if you compare that figure with, U.S. Nuclear arsenal,
Yeah.
which is like in thousands, and
Yeah.
so basically the U.S. is providing what we call extended nuclear deterrence, colloquially called nuclear umbrella to
Umbrella.
South Korea, right? So basically, what the Americans are saying is, North Koreans, if you launch nuclear weapons against our friend South Koreans, Americans would launch nuclear retaliatory attack against North Korea, your country. So don't do it in the first place. So that I think is remains quite effective.
Mhm. So, stepping away from all this, we've seen videos of Kim Jong Un with his young daughter at various missile locations and all. What is he trying to tell us? Is there a message here?
Yeah, I think at least one message is that North Korea is becoming more open and more friendly to young generation. And the second one is that, he might be trying to kind of, Kim regime or Kim dynasty will continue, right? There
Mm.
are like, successors to this, Kim Jong-un. And but there is certainly a debate of whether she has become a heir apparent or not. So we don't know that yet. But certainly is becoming more important as a potential, candidate as a successor.
And do you really see the young lady taking over at some point?
That's possible. For example, if something bad happens to Kim Jong-un, I mean, he's only human. He can have a bad disease. He can have a accident. Might suffer an accidental death. So if something bad happens to Kim Jong Un, then she might be in the at this point she definitely is the best position to inherit his power. I mean,
Mhm.
although I don't think she'll be calling the shots, but she will become a unifying figure for the country and the regime.
And what about his sister?
Her sister has been kind of quite vocal. She's been attacking, criticizing South Korea,
Yeah.
bad things. She's really been, recently she's been making nasty comments
Yeah.
on South Korea and South Korean President Mr. Yoon Song-yeol. And so but she, because by doing so, she has lost his sort of dignity in a way, right? So she seems to have chosen to be a like spokesperson rather than a potential successor.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
she's playing an interesting sort of supportive and secondary role, supporting what Kim Jong Un is trying to do.
I presume she is doing what he wants her to do.
Certainly, yeah. I think they. So it seems that sometimes I think they are playing a good cop, bad cop game, in which his sister Kim Yo Jong plays a bad cop, while Kim Jong-un plays a sort of a nice guy, but good cop.
Hmm.
So, although he
Nice,
can be quite
nice.
nasty, he's been making nasty comments as well. So he's
Yeah,
not entirely a good cop, but certainly a better cop in this game.
yeah. Dr. Michishita, it's been a pleasure talking to you and some interesting insights there into this North Korean family.
Mhm.
We'll be back with you at some other point, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, sir. That's all we have for you on this broadcast. We'll be back with you with more interesting persons on to interview and on more interesting subjects going forward. Thank you very much. Good day.